Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I've got coffee, I've got books, and it does look a bit overcast, so maybe we will get some rain, but I'm not guaranteeing it. I think it just looks like that sometimes. But today we are talking about Days of Shattered Faith by Adrien Tchaikovsky, and this is number 3 in the Tyrant Philosophers series. I will go ahead and say right off the bat that I highly recommend you read the other two before diving into this one. I do not think they are standalone. I do not think that they should be read without I don't think at least book number 3 should be read without reading the first 1 and 2. I do think it's going to make a lot more sense, and it is much more cohesive story. It does not, again, do well, in my personal opinion, as a standalone. So please, if you're going to pick this up, then I would recommend you picking up the first book in the series, which I'm going to click on the author's name real quick and see if we can get that first book's title for you guys. So this is and Adrien Tchaikovsky is a very prolific writer, which I really enjoy because I actually read a lot of his works, and pretty much the diversity in his writing makes me very happy. Now, let's see. Tyrant Philosopher book number 1 is City of Last Chances. I have read that book, and I've read the second one as well, but I had the first one as a NetGalley book as well a few years ago. It looks like it came out, published in 2022, so yeah, about 2.5, 3 years ago-ish, and really enjoyed it. But I will say, just kind of preparing you, that it can feel a bit slow at times. So, just from my personal opinion, it is going to be, that first book, City of Lost Souls, is going to be a bit slower of a read because it is a lot of world building. There are angsty characters. The mood is very heavy and dark, and I feel like some of that can lead to sometimes a slower read or a more intense read. So this one did take me just a little while to get into, simply because it was about 500 plus pages in the hardback book. Both my puppies are looking at me. Sorry, guys. They're just sitting over there. They're so cute. And it says it was first published December 5th of 2024. Now, I only just received this on NetGalley, and from what I'm to understand on my NetGalley, this book is due on or around March 11th. Oh, wait, March 4th. Sorry, March 4th. I wrote the 11th on another book and just looked at the wrong line. So, I was under the impression this book was slated to be released on or around March 4th. But I know I'm releasing this episode a little bit later, just simply because it was over 500 pages, and it took me just a little bit longer to work through it. So let's dive into the summary. Welcome to Akeland, Jewel of the Waters. And I hope I said that right. I've never had the audiobooks for it, so I pronounce these the way I do in my head. Capital of Uzme, greatest of the successor states, inheritor to the necromantic dominion that was the Morabandi Empire, and tomorrow's front line in the Palestine's relentless march to bring perfection and correction to an imperfect world. So those are a lot of words that if you haven't read the first couple of books, you're not going to really understand who or what those individuals, like what they reference to. So again, just prefacing, please go dive into the first and second one before picking this one up. They will make more sense ultimately. Lorette is fresh off the boat and just in time. As cohort invigilator of a correct appreciation outreach department, she's here as an aide to the Palestine resident Sage Invigilator Angeli. And Sage Invigilator, this is going to make my tongue get really tied, I promise you. Sage Invigilator and Jilly, Gil to her friends, needs a second in this spectacularly illegal, culturally offensive, and diplomatically inadvisable duel she must fight at midnight. Outreach, that part of the PAL machine that has to work with the imperfection of the rest of the world, has a lot of room for the illegal, the unconventional, and the unorthodox. But just how much unorthodoxy can Gil and Lorette get away with? As a succession crisis blooms, as a long forgotten feat of necromantic engineering nears fruition, as pirate kings, lizard armies, and demons gather, as old gods wane and new gods wax. Sooner or later, Gil and Lorette will have to settle their ledger. Just as well, they are both very, very good with the blade. The Tyrant Philosopher series, endlessly creative, and these are some of the accolades that other people have given. Now, again, this book is heavy. It is high fantasy, but it's not high fantasy in the way you imagine Lord of the Rings or The Wheel of Time or the Stormlight Archive. And yet, it does have that aspect of high fantasy, of building this incredibly rich world that all of this is being set into. It is considered fantasy fiction, science fiction, and science fiction fantasy. It is getting very good reviews, which is one of the reasons I did want to put this out there. It seems as though over 500 people have rated this book 5 stars. I personally give it about 4.5 because I really enjoyed it. Took me a little bit to get through again, but I was also trying to keep up with some other books as well. And there is a reason that, Adrien Tchaikovsky keeps popping up on my personal to be read list. He is very good with words. He is very good, in my personal opinion, with creating these very kind of epic worldscapes to set his stories into. And I think he's consistently a pretty good writer, and I say pretty good, but consistently, in my opinion, a good writer. And I'm always intrigued by the twists and turns his stories take along the way. Now, someone else says this can be standalone since each story seems to have its own setting. I don't know about that. I personally, after having read the first two, feel like I walked into this one knowing what I needed to know to read this book. Other people maybe have their own different opinions, but of course this is my channel. They didn't come on here to talk about it. But I thought it helped. I thought it really helped kind of set that stage for me and to flesh out the world for me, to know what is really going on in some of the detailing. That's just my personal thoughts. But hey, if someone else feels like this book can stand alone, then maybe it can. But I guess I already had exposure to the first two, so I walk in with the thought that it really was beneficial to have read those. I feel like if I hadn't read them, then I would have been missing something. Sorry, my puppy's playing with a toy, and he doesn't really do that too frequently, but I think he thinks there's treats in it. So we have this world of unrest, pretty much, where the state of the Palisand is working towards overtaking another area. And there's, as this person actually says, which I like the way that they phrase it, there's little difference between peaceful takeover and liberation via invasion. And I just kind of borrowed that line, which was really, really well phrased. But Natalia, she is the one who said that, and I agree with that phrasing wholeheartedly. But it's... Anyway. she also makes a note that every setting in the book is, even though it takes place on the same world, it's set in a different area. So think of, like, one book taking place in the United States, and one place taking place in England, and one place taking place in China. So, like, they're set in different areas within the world. So maybe that's why she means it can stand alone. Hmm. That's clever. Okay. I guess I can get that. I guess just knowing world history in my personal thought was kind of like the better way to do it. But I like the characters. They are complex, but they're also really well flushed out. They're really well defined. Their quirks and mannerisms were not, I don't want to say overly abrasive, because that's really not the right word or not the right phrasing for it, but they're not perfect. They are definitely flawed characters with maybe some poor judgment calls at times, which we can all maybe agree that we've had every once in a while. Make some poor judgment calls. There are some loyalties that come into play, and they pull you in, like, one's going over here, one's going over here. So you're kind of having to decide, okay, where does my loyalty lie? And I like that there's kind of like that vague ambiguity of doing the right thing, because for one person, their moral compass may point one direction, and for someone else, that moral compass may point a different direction. And I thought that was well done in this book. They're not trying to tell us, oh, this is the right way or this is the right way, but they're kind of leaving it up to kind of that morally gray area for the reader and the characters to figure out as they work along. Now, I personally, I think one of the ones by Adrien Tchaikovsky that I recently read was Service Model. And I loved it. It's sci-fi with some fantasy elements to it, but it's really a little bit more sci-fi because it was about a robot. And I tell you what, that was one of those books that just hit me in all of the right spots at the right time. And I don't remember how many pages it was, but I consumed that book so fast. This one and this higher fantasy, I don't think maybe epic fantasy is the right word for it, but maybe higher level of fantasy, with especially these names and these settings and this true world building, not just a flat map, this area, but truly a world building scenario. This guy, he's doing a very good job with this high fantasy. I'm still a bit preferential towards maybe someone like Brandon Sanderson, but I have been exposed to a lot more of Brandon Sanderson's work. And I think Adrien Tchaikovsky is still not quite on people's radar the way I would like to see it on their radar. I do wish more people would talk about his works a little bit more and to see sort of what they think. But personally, like, I do, when I'm on NetGalley, I will type in his last name in order to see if I'm like missing anything that's coming out soon. And even though I think this book fell a little bit short of the other two books, and the first one did, for me, was kind of slow. This one, again, also has some slower moments as well. I think book 2, for me, was probably where I had, like, the most enjoyment. So I guess number 1, number 2, number 3. I'd give this about 4.25 stars. Still very good. Still a great read if you like those intense sort of reads. And that's pretty much my thoughts right there. I don't want to give you too many things away, because there's so much in this book that I wouldn't really know where to start. But I think trying to explain to you, like, the whole vibe of the book is very moody and kind of broody, but there's bad guys and there's conquerors and imperialists, and you have a society in turmoil. So, but of course, it's, again, fantasy. Is it social commentary? I don't really know. Do I read it as such? No, I really don't. I definitely say this is a good series. It's a very good series, worth diving into. Honestly, and I was just trying to see if this is going to be the last book in the series or not, but I feel confident that we may still get another one. Um, See, and I see another person actually says, I advise a new reader to finish the others before diving into this one. So, see, I'm not the only one who thinks that the other two books lend well to reading this one. So, see, I know I'm not the only one. Yay. I'm going to give this little guy who this person is, hang on just a second, Rue Dunbar. Good job, because we're on the same page with thinking that we should read the other ones first. Again, set in the same world, not the same place, but it's the same world, and still got that, I don't know, still got that similar vibe of the other two. So, highly go out and recommend reading those. It will be girthy when you pick it up. A 500-page book is always going to be a little girthy, but maybe do the audiobook. I don't know how long the audiobook is going to be. Let's see, if it's 500 pages, I guess it could be somewhere about 20 hours, because I have a 1,500-page book, just throwing out Sanderson's Wind and Truth, was about 62 hours. So somewhere around in there. But with all of that being said, I'm going to leave it there because I've already kind of meandered my way through talking a little bit about this book and just the general vibes of it. But I don't want to give away too much and talk about too much if you haven't experienced the other two. And maybe I'll go back and I'll try to like do a recap of the other, like all three books, just to kind of get the story so far with the main characters, but I haven't really decided on that yet. Well, anyway, I do want to thank you so much for tuning in, for liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, I hope you will. And I want to see you on the next page. I want to see you in the next episode, but I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. And then I will see you on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.